Pay close attention because what you're about to hear may change how you interpret every message you've ever received from someone outside your age group. In fact, this could already be unfolding in your life. Someone may have developed feelings for you, but the difference in age introduces a dynamic that challenges everything you think you understand about attraction and emotional connection. I'm a psychologist, and I want you to stay with me because this goes far beyond romance. It touches on psychology, influence, and emotional vulnerability. Before we go further, take a moment to like this video and subscribe because what you learn here could help you avoid a decision you might regret later. Why she fell for you. Now picture this. Someone significantly older or younger begins to focus on you with an intensity that feels almost unreal, as if they notice something in you that no one else has. Your mind responds in a risky way. It starts filling in the blanks with meaning. It tells you, this is rare, this is special, this must be fate. But psychology offers a very different explanation for age gap attraction. It isn't always rooted in love. More often, it's driven by projection, curiosity, and unmet emotional needs. This is where clarity often slips away. People mistake intensity for compatibility and attention for genuine commitment. If you've ever felt drawn to someone much older or younger, you're not alone. But there's a deeper reality within this dynamic that rarely gets discussed. What feels like connection may actually be emotional mismatch beneath the surface. When someone older connects with someone younger or vice versa, there's often a psychological exchange taking place. One person may be seeking novelty, energy, or validation, while the other may be looking for stability, direction, or attention. This imbalance creates a powerful, the age gap reality emotional charge that feels like love, but is often just chemistry fueled by difference rather than true alignment. You might catch yourself thinking about them constantly, replaying conversations and reading into every message as if it holds deeper meaning. But your brain isn't always presenting reality. It's trying to make sense of emotional stimulation and novelty. When age differences are involved, subtle power dynamics often exist beneath the surface, shaping your feelings without your awareness. So before labeling it destiny or dismissing it entirely, it's important to understand what your emotions are actually responding to. Here's something most people are never taught about attraction across age gaps. When someone older or younger develops feelings for you or you for them, your brain isn't just reacting to the individual, it's responding to what that person symbolizes. Psychologists call this projection, and it's one of the most influential distortions in human connection. If you're younger, you might project wisdom, safety, or emotional stability onto someone older, assuming they have life figured out. You may feel uncertain emotional versus logical love in your own world, while they appear grounded and complete, but often what you're seeing isn't entirely real. It's your own need for guidance reflected back at you. On the other hand, if you're older, the projection can take a different form. You may see youth, vitality, admiration, or a sense of being needed again. It can feel like you're being noticed in a way life hasn't offered in years. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Projection feels like chemistry because it creates intensity without stability. The mind fills emotional gaps with imagination, and that imagination becomes addictive. You begin anticipating messages, overanalyzing silence, and assigning meaning to small gestures that were never meant to carry that weight. This is where attachment begins. Not from genuine understanding, but from emotional anticipation. The more uncertain the dynamic, the stronger the pull becomes. That's why age gap connections can feel so consuming. They activate both curiosity and insecurity at the same time. Your nervous system becomes highly alert. Every interaction feels amplified, and your brain releases dopamine in unpredictable patterns, creating a cycle that can resemble emotional dependency. But what you're really chasing isn't what society thinks, just the person. It's the feeling of being chosen by someone who feels different from what you're used to. That difference can be mistaken for depth when in reality it's often just unfamiliar emotional territory. And unfamiliar doesn't always mean healthy. When you finally slow down and observe your feelings without the influence of fantasy, you start to see the truth. Is this connection built on mutual understanding, emotional maturity, and shared direction? Or is it based on contrast that feels powerful but may not hold up in real life? This awareness brings clarity, self respect, and a deeper understanding of your emotional world. At some point in these dynamics, there's usually a shift. Your emotions stop feeling like something you're experiencing and start feeling like something happening to you. This shift is subtle but critical. It's where imbalance begins to shape your perception. When someone significantly older or younger enters your life, they bring more than just their personality. They bring their experiences, expectations, and unconscious patterns. Your mind begins adjusting around their signs. It's real love presence, which can feel like fascination, but is often adaptation. Humans naturally adjust to perceived authority or novelty. If the other person seems more experienced, your brain may unconsciously defer. If they seem more youthful or emotionally open, you might become more protective or invested. These responses aren't neutral. They influence how you interpret everything from tone to silence to affection. One of the most overlooked forces here is perceived power. Not necessarily real power, but the sense that the other person has emotional or social leverage. You might feel like they know something you don't, or that they're ahead or behind you in ways that create imbalance. That imbalance can feel like attraction because it activates a desire to either catch up or guide. This is where emotional roles begin to form: mentor, follower, rescuer, learner, often without conscious agreement. Once these roles take shape, feelings intensify because roles create structure, and structure feels meaningful. But meaning doesn't always equal truth. Attachment patterns also play a role. If you tend toward anxious attachment, you may become more preoccupied and sensitive to changes in attention. If you lean avoidant, you may feel drawn in and pushed away at the same time. Age differences amplify these tendencies by introducing uncertainty about where risks you can't ignore you stand. And uncertainty fuels attachment, even when it's unhealthy. What feels like deep bonding may actually be your nervous system trying to stabilize itself in a situation it doesn't fully understand. The real issue isn't the age difference. It's the unexamined roles and expectations that quietly shape how you feel and behave over time. Eventually, there's often a turning point where the emotional intensity becomes so familiar that you stop questioning it. Ironically, that's when it becomes most influential. Familiarity isn't the same as safety. Just because something feels consistent doesn't mean it's stable. In these dynamics, emotional patterns are often unpredictable. Your mind adapts to this unpredictability and labels it passion. But unpredictability is one of the strongest drivers of emotional fixation. The brain is wired to focus on what it can't predict, so when someone gives attention inconsistently, sometimes deeply engaged, sometimes distant, your nervous system prioritizes them without your conscious choice. You start building narratives around their inconsistency, telling yourself they're complex or uniquely deep. But research shows that inconsistency often creates stronger attachment than what you should do consistency ever could. This is where confusion begins to feel like depth. You're no longer just responding to the person, you're responding to the emotional pattern they've created within you. Another factor is the illusion of accelerated intimacy. Conversations may feel deeper, emotions may escalate quickly, and attachment can form faster than usual, but speed isn't the same as depth. Sometimes it's just two people assigning meaning to each other faster than they're building real understanding. True emotional connection is defined by clarity, consistency, and shared responsibility. But in age gap dynamics, these foundations can be unintentionally skipped because both people feel something significant and rushed to define it. What feels like deep connection may actually be fast-tracked bonding without a stable foundation. Over time, this lack of grounding shows up as confusion, overthinking, and emotional dependency. You may find yourself trying to stabilize something that was never stable to begin with. This is where awareness becomes essential. Once you recognize the pattern, you can begin separating intensity from truth. Many people misunderstand one key idea. The strongest emotions aren't always created by similarity. Final truth about age gap. Love, often they come from contrast. Contrast is emotionally magnetic because it disrupts your expectations of connection. When someone very different enters your life, your mind interprets that disruption as significance. But disruption isn't compatibility. The brain often confuses emotional stimulation with importance because it enhances attention and memory. You remember the moments more vividly, but what you're recalling isn't necessarily emotional truth, it's neurological activation. There's also emotional asymmetry. One person may feel like they're learning, while the other feels like they're rediscovering something. This creates an uneven exchange, even if both are sincere. You might feel deeply understood, but sometimes what's being understood is a version of you that fits into their narrative, not your full reality. Over time, this can lead to emotional dependency, not necessarily through manipulation, but through reinforcement. Your brain begins associating this person with emotional awakening or validation. But healthy relationships aren't built on cycles of intensity. They're built on stability and consistency. Another important factor is timing, not just emotional timing, but life timing. Two people can genuinely care for each other and still be misaligned in priorities, life stages, or emotional readiness. When one person is building their identity while the other is in a completely different phase, the relationship carries invisible pressure that chemistry alone can't fix. You may resist this idea because it challenges something that feels meaningful, but questioning isn't rejection, it's clarity. Over time, both people may start adjusting themselves to maintain the connection, often without realizing the cost. You might suppress certain needs or ignore discomfort because the emotional high feels worth it, but adjustment isn't the same as alignment. There's also the pull of future projection. Strong emotions lead you to imagine what the relationship could become rather than seeing what it is. Age differences amplify this because they invite imagination. But potential is one of the most persuasive illusions. It feels real even when it isn't. The more you invest in that imagined future, the harder it becomes to evaluate the present objectively. You may overlook inconsistencies because your mind is protecting the vision you've created. But emotional maturity requires focusing on patterns, not possibilities. At the core of all this is a simple truth. Age gap attraction isn't inherently right or wrong. What matters is the emotional structure within it. Are both people meeting as equals in respect, clarity, and responsibility? Or is one carrying more of the emotional weight? When feelings are strong, your mind will justify the connection. It will emphasize the good moments and downplay the confusing ones. That's what attachment does. It protects the bond. But you are not your attachment. You are the observer of it. One of the most powerful questions you can ask yourself isn't how do I feel, but how do I consistently feel over time? Do you feel secure or uncertain, grounded or emotionally triggered, clear or confused? Because clarity is rarely chaotic and confusion usually signals misalignment. If someone truly fits into your life in a healthy way, you won't feel like you're constantly trying to decode them. You'll feel understood without overanalyzing every interaction. If you're in a situation like this right now, the answer isn't necessarily to leave or stay. The answer is to slow down and see clearly. Intensity can feel meaningful, but real meaning is built through consistency, not emotional highs. If the connection is genuine, it will withstand clarity. It won't require you to ignore your instincts or compromise your emotional stability. And if it does, then what you're experiencing isn't grounded love. It's emotional entanglement shaped by difference, timing, and projection. You deserve to understand that difference because once you do, you'll stop mistaking chaos for connection.